Welcome to David Sobolov's Experiences with Voicing Transformers Characters panel. Our guest today is David Sobolov, and you can find him on social media at Volobos on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. His website is Sobolov.com. Transformers fans might know David Sobolov as the voice of Depth Charge in Beast Wars, Shockwave in Transformers Prime, and Blitzwing in the Bumblebee 2018 feature film. But he's also lent his talent and imposing growl to a variety of live action TV series, animated series, video games, and movies. He even speaks German in the first Call of Duty game and Klingon in the feature film Star Trek Into Darkness. David, we're so happy to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we're going to start off with a few background questions. What actually got you into voice acting?
I was a musician. I was a French horn player, and I started to do theater. And somebody saw me in a play, and it was an agent. They said, "Come do villains," because they liked the deep voice. And it kind of found me. I wasn't even thinking. I thought about it when I was younger, but it wasn't at that time something I was thinking of doing. But it's kind of cool that it found me, and it kind of made sense. So I kept doing it, and I
Nice.
really liked it.
Yeah, well, you obviously do because you've done it for so many years.
The
um,
secret to a long career is A, never giving up, and B, if you still enjoy it after 30 years. It's been, when was my first thing? It was probably 27 years ago, something like that. But I still kind of feel the same fun that I did when I started. So I'm lucky. I think a lot of people get bored of their jobs, but I never did.
that's wonderful that you found something that you're passionate about and that you've been able to, never get sick of. And that, so what was your first role actually as acting?
Acting, well, I did a lot of plays early on,
Hmm.
but in terms of voice acting, the first thing that anybody would have seen was called Vortec. It was on Fox. I'm sure no one
Hmm.
remembers it. It was 1995, I think.
Hmm.
I did a couple little things before that in anime.
Hmm.
Yeah, all Key the Metal Idol was before that. That was an anime show. It was an anime series. But yeah, 93, 94, a few little things, and then Vortec on Fox. That was the beginning.
Hmm. Awesome. So, what in your life experiences was most helpful for you in becoming a voice actor?
Well, a few different things. Music was very important. My musical training. Characters have a rhythm. Characters have pitch. Characters could be staccato or legato, smooth or sharp. So that really helps. And also, I studied with Sanford Meisner at the Neighborhood Playhouse. I studied acting, and they taught that living acting is living truthfully under given imaginary circumstances. So there's nothing more imaginary or just bizarre than voice acting in a cartoon or a game or a film, and you have to make it believable, even if it's really bizarre. When you saw Blitzwing, I had to convince you that I was Blitzwing, and that's not easy to do with this enormous screen in front of you. You have to act to the size of the screen too.
Hmm. That
So many
makes
different
sense.
factors. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So, my next question is, were you a Transformers fan before doing work for Beast Wars?
Well, when I did Beast Wars, how old was I when I did Beast Wars? I would have been over 30. I was like 35 when I did Beast Wars. So it had only been about 14 years or so since it started in the 80s. And I was already kind of graduated from high school by then. And I never really knew about Transformers until I started working on it.
Oh, wow. So how did you get your role in Beast Wars for Depth Charge?
Well, I auditioned like everybody else, but it was a really unusual audition. It was 40 minutes long. And they took me aside. A fellow named Ace Fipke was one of the producers there in Vancouver, and they brought me in, and we started talking about the layers of the character. There's a lot of Clint Eastwood in the character, and
Hmm.
various different feelings that he had. Acting is you're doing text, sure, it's text, but it's a bed of emotion. You always have to have something going on underneath to make it interesting. So we were working on that and just layering all of his different attitudes about different things, sort of the anti-hero feeling. And yeah, luckily I got the role.
Yeah, well, we're really lucky that you did because you've been a part of the Transformers community since then.
Well, what an opportunity to have. I thought I'd have one big Transformers role in my lifetime, but three. I mean, I've had other little ones, but three big ones. I'm really, really lucky, and I don't take it lightly. I know that I don't really have a strong sense of entitlement. They could have given those roles to anybody. I've been a guest in the Transformers house for all these years, and I feel really fortunate about that. The fans have been great.
Oh, thank you. We're very happy to hear that. Um, so I wanted to talk a little bit about your process for voice acting before we get to more Transformer specific questions. So how much freedom do you have as a voice actor with your vocal performance?
The biggest freedom comes when you're auditioning. Maybe not so much for Beast Wars because they really work with me closely. A lot of times now, you don't get to work with the director when you're auditioning. You have to do it on your own. You give them something that's interesting, that has great choices, um, great peaks and valleys, as Sue Blue would say. Um, but you also have to give something to them in the audition that you can perform 40 times over and over and over again. I think some people make the mistake when they're starting out. They'll give like a huge screamy performance or something, and we do a 4 hour session. And if your voice dies before the 4 hours, you can't sustain the character. So you want to give them something that you know that you can sustain. And a lot of it is based on emotion for me and what's going on in the scene. And I teach voice acting too. And I talk about making it believable. You start with, do you understand the text? Are you saying it in a way that people will understand the story? Do you know where you are? You have to act that too. You have to see the people in your head that you're talking to. Everything in that scene is animated later. The voice comes first. So you have to animate it in your head first,
Wow, that's
if that
really
makes
cool.
sense.
Hmm. Yeah. So for my next question is, how often do you have to read a line to nail it in the delivery?
Well, it's up to the director whether or not I've nailed it. So it's as many times as they want. I remember one time doing Robocop in the 90s. There was one
Hmm.
line the director didn't like, and he made me do it like 10 times. So that happens. But oftentimes, what you do in a performance, many, many times, they'll read it through once, they'll record it in case it's good, and then they'll a scene, we'll do a scene, and then they'll give you notes on how to adjust different things. We'll do it again, and then they'll go in for individual lines. So it's really only those three times, pretty much all the
Okay.
chance you get.
All right. It sounds like the pressure's on then when you're doing
Yeah, it's
this.
fine. It's fine because of course, it's not live. They can
Hmm.
they can change the and they do something called Frankensteining, and I've even
Mm,
seen them do this with Peter Cullen. So this happens at the highest level.
okay.
Um, you'll do a couple of takes of something, and they'll take a little bit of one take, a little bit of the other take, and mix it together. They call that Frankensteining, and there's no shame in it. Like if you're auditioning, you're just starting out, and you have to like take one half of one take and one half of another take. Don't feel like it's cheating because we're doing it in the show. It's
See,
completely legit.
see, I had no idea that they'd actually did that with lines. So thank you for
Hmm.
sharing that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So then my next question is, do you have a vocal warm-up routine you do? And if so, would you share it?
Not a lot. I mean, sometimes if it's morning, especially, I'm not really a morning person, so I might, oh, wow, wow, something like that, just to open things up. I won't show you the one. I would have to put my hand in front of my face because it's sticking your tongue out. You talk
Oh,
to your nose, or close to your nose, down, left, right. Just it's a muscle. You want to stretch it. It's kind of like warming up to go to the gym.
all
But
right.
most of the time, it might just be a jaw stretch, left and right, things you do in acting school. Mostly, it's water, just drinking water to get ready. Uh, Having a super low gravelly voice now, I've gotten more and more gravelly the more video games I've done over the years. So you'll hear that my voice doesn't sound like it did in Beast Wars anymore. That was a younger guy. But yeah, vocal rest is super important. You say it's not really part of a warm up, of course, but say you have to do a lot of screaming the next day, it's better
Hmm.
just to text the day before mostly and not talk a lot, just to preserve yourself.
Yeah, well, that actually is a good lead into the next question is how long is a typical day of recording for you?
Usually, you got to pace yourself. So if it's a very busy, if you have a lot of projects going on, everyone's different. I don't like doing session after session after session. I think the most I've ever done is three in a day. I would rather just do one, but if one or two, if I'm lucky enough to be that busy. But animation is 4 hours maximum. So is video game. If you're doing a video game session, I try to, if I have any control of it, book them on Fridays. So then if I'm screaming, I have the whole weekend to recover, because you're not usually working on the weekends. But yeah, typically you got a 4-hour session. If you want to, you could do, if you're busy, you could do a 4-hour in the morning, 4-hour in the afternoon. I prefer to not go more than 4 hours in a day, because at a certain point, it's not going to sound like the character anymore. We're human. Your voice breaks down. There were some sessions on Bumblebee where it was so screamy, we would only do an hour or an hour and a half.
Oh,
And
wow.
the very first line, if I remember correctly, that session was just that line. Did you think you could hide? Because I was playing it for an enormous screen. Excuse me. There's my voice. An enormous screen on a close-up. So it had to be way bigger than you see it on the screen. It may not seem even as big as you do it as a human, because he has to be more than human. They're going to help you a lot electronically, boosting things and putting a lot of bass in and all that. But usually my particular voice, they don't process it much. They just take what they get. Oftentimes also, if I'm playing a really sort of intimidating villain, like you heard one of the Blitzwing lines was, let's make it official, like that, right? And I was literally like almost whispering it, and they just turn it way up.
Mhm.
But yeah, that first line was one session.
Well, you definitely nailed it, at least to us viewers who saw the movie. Like, I remember seeing that scene when Blitzwing comes flying in, and he just sounds so imposing and so intimidating. So you did a really fabulous job on him.
Thank you. I think something that inspired me there was, not only did I create my own personal backstory, which we can talk about, but when I started recording it, their intention, I believe, if I got this correctly, was to start the movie with Blitzwing coming through the forest. That was the very first shot after the credits. They didn't have all the Cybertron stuff in at first, so I felt a lot of responsibility to like really start it off with a bang, and I'm
Mhm.
sure that really helped my performance as well. It's okay that it didn't turn out. It turned out great the way they did, because then they did something for the fans.
Mhm.
Travis knew Transformers, and that helped a lot. Um, but yeah, the backstory, I had to add some emotion to it. You can't just have raw anger. Raw anger is kind of boring. You have to
Mhm.
add something underneath. So I imagined that Bumblebee had been my friend that had worked with me, like we talk about, and that he had betrayed me, and that I was seeking revenge on him. A little bit like Depth Charge in a
Mhm.
way. He had, it wasn't about a murder or anything, but just that he had personally betrayed me, and I needed to get revenge, and that helped a lot.
Yeah,
Wasn't real. That was not in the canon at all. I just made that up to help me act it.
that's really cool that you made up your own like fan canon though for the story for Blitzwing, and I think that's wonderful that you was able to help you develop the character for the screen. So thank you for
Oh,
sharing that with
oh,
us.
sure. I wouldn't actually call it a canon. I don't want people to think that I'm trying to write, a canon. It was
Mhm.
just what I need. You often need, when you're acting, to substitute your real life.
Mhm.
You have to imagine something that's real. And when I'm teaching, I encourage people to do that. I never ask them what it is, because that's personal. But you have to be able to draw from your own experiences and at least your own understanding of the world. So life experience helps.
Yeah.
That helps to
So
play a character like that when you're older.
yeah. Oh, okay. Since we are talking about how you developed Blitzwing, could you share how you developed Transformers Prime Shockwave?
That was a very unique type of evil, because that particular character, if you were behind him, if you were ahead of him and in the way of what he wanted to do, he had no opinion about killing you. He just killed you. That's what he would do. So to have that level of cold is very difficult to play, because it's not really angry. It's just indifferent. Indifferent can be scary, So except for Starscream, whenever he was with him, he didn't have any. He had a very strong opinion about him, so he didn't hold back at all. But normally it was just flat, no emotion, and that pause I put in. We did that on purpose. You
Mhm.
are logical. I would wait for the logical, to
Mhm.
wait, like, people, and sometimes they'd add extra time too, I noticed, because like it's suspenseful. It's like, in a reality show when they're gonna like tell you who the winner is, like the British
Mhm.
baking show that I like, at the end, they say who the winner is, and there's a huge long pause, and that suspense helped a lot. But yeah, he was just bereft of emotion, except for Starscream. He had a lot of emotion for him.
Starscream knew how to press his buttons, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what about with Depth Charge? How did you develop that character?
Again, that was that whole layering process that we did in the audition. That really stuck with me, and it was just I had a singular goal, and that singular goal was more important than I was still helping the team, but kind of not really. He was like a not really good guy, just barely on the good team. But he, because he would help, but only when his own agenda wasn't, being interrupted. If he thought he could get Protoformax, he'd be gone. And wasn't it, something I really think about in recent years, his death scene. It wasn't like physically gruesome, like it wasn't like rated R or anything, but seeing pieces of him float up to the surface, that still creeps me out. Seeing that, it's like they don't have to say that he's dead. Everybody knows because there's so many pieces of him. Can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Yeah, I remember seeing that when B Scores was first on TV, and that really creeped me out. So that was really impactful.
Here's a fan question that I don't even know the answer to. I'd have to go back and really watch. When
Mhm.
you see pieces of Depth Charge floating to the surface, are there pieces of Rampage too? He's the guy I killed,
Ooh,
right? He's the guy I
yeah.
killed, right? Yeah, Rampage. Cam, by the way, was a fantastic actor. May he rest in peace. I really,
Mhm.
really regret that we never got to do any fan fiction together. That we never got
Mhm.
to do a panel together. But yeah, acting that particular scene too. They didn't tell me that was happening until I walked
Whoa.
in the room, and that's the best way to kill somebody off. It adds a lot of drama to it
Wow.
because you're losing your job as well as your character.
It's kind of a bad way to find out that you're losing
Yeah.
your job. Just guess what? Your character's dying. Oh, here, you're being laid off too. Yeah. So what is the major difference between doing voice work for television and voice work for feature films, if any?
Oh, it's a huge difference. Many times in television, it's getting less and less, but it used to be you would have an ensemble with you, which would be
Hmm.
great. Definitely games, but really, really for feature films, you are by yourself with a screen, and usually you're only working with the post-production supervisor. I was very lucky in Alita, Battle Angel, and in Bumblebee. I got to work with the director of the whole picture. So you're getting it from the horse's mouth in terms of the creative, which is wonderful. You're not guessing.
Hmm.
Um, in a feature film, you're in a huge room. It's called an ADR stage, and they're showing you the film. And in that case, usually you are recording after they animate at least some of it.
Hmm.
Um, for live action, I mostly do live action feature stuff and live action television rather than animated features. I'd love to do more, but so the process for that is probably quite different. I haven't really done enough of them to even say. But for television, it's sometimes they might have all the cast in the waiting room and they bring you in one by one. Now with COVID, of course, mostly we're doing it at home. I did a whole video game at home, and it's a very different experience to see everybody on the screen. You got to just create your own energy. You have nobody to play off of.
Hmm.
But yeah,
That
feature films I just find very exciting. Something about them I really enjoy.
it sounds like it's really exciting. And then, can you tell us a little bit about how it's been like doing voice work from home?
Well, I had to really upgrade my equipment because the equipment that I had before was great for auditions, really, but not super great for actually putting things in a project. So all of us professional voice actors, we had to really, just find all the pennies and nickels we had and, and upgrade to like a mic that Warner Brothers would accept. Sometimes they'll send stuff over. I had once that they actually sent me a microphone because they wanted all of the microphones to match. They'll do that too. I've been producing some stuff too. So there's a pilot that I've written with my co-writer Michael Carr for an animated pilot. We recorded everybody at home, so you start to learn for the producer side of things. If everybody's using different microphones, it comes in sounding a little bit different. So yeah, it's fine. I got used to it. Like we're talking on Zoom now. I now have to do this almost every day. So you get used to it, and I created a little set behind me, kind of like it's a TV show, like you do too. You've got all your figures behind you, and the
Yeah.
kitchen. Well, a lot of people,
Hmm.
do you know that there's an app called, not an app, there's a site called Room Rater? You know about
Wait,
Room Rater?
wait, what?
Room Rater. It's mainly for news people, but it goes
Hmm.
through all the people that you see on TV that are doing recording from home, that are doing Zooming from home, and it
Hmm.
rates the room that they record from.
Oh, wow. I'll have to check that out. What's yours rated at?
I don't know if I have one. I probably don't. It's mostly for news people.
Oh, okay. Well, we could maybe
But I would
find
rate
out.
yours very highly.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me. And I love your setup as well.
Thanks. I was trying to, before I record, or before I broadcast, I'm gonna look behind me, like what's showing.
Yeah, I know. I did the same thing too. I have like a staged look for um before we get into a few more Transformers
Hmm.
things, I wanted to ask you if you have any classes, books, or programs you recommend.
Well, I have classes that I do teach myself.
Hmm.
Occasionally, I'll do a group class. There isn't any planned right now, but I'll probably have some going in February that I'll put up on my social media. And I teach privately too on Zoom, and I'm getting students all over the world. It's so cool. Just people talk to people, and hopefully they like what I do, and I'll teach privately. But aside from me, Steve Bloom teaches. He's fantastic. If you're starting out voice acting, the very first thing you should do is go to a website called iwanttobeavoiceactor.com. That's D. Bradley Baker's website, where he really breaks it down. He's helped all of us to that's the place that we send everybody when they start. So that's my
Well, thank.
recommendation. But classes, there are a lot of classes. Try to make sure it's a working professional or somebody directing, and don't. And I don't say this for myself, but please don't just take a class because a casting director is teaching it. The whole idea is that you're going to learn something too, right? So it doesn't happen overnight. Um, I'm hoping your experiences out there, if you're doing voice acting, are a little different. It took me 11 years in Los Angeles to get traction after I left Vancouver. So it can take a little bit of time. So, if you can actually learn from someone that can teach you the fundamentals, it's really helpful rather than worrying about getting a job immediately. It doesn't always happen overnight as much as we'd like it to.
Yeah. Well, thank you for those words of wisdom and for your advice to those who are aspiring to become voice actors. So everyone check
Mhm.
out David's website since he's teaching classes. Final, and do you have a mentor?
Well, Sanford Meisner, of course,
Hmm.
who's my teacher long ago. I really enjoy working with people like Peter Cullen, the
Hmm.
people from the generation before me. There's not many left at my age, but yeah, there's fantastic people like that. And those people are often, they're so incredibly kind. You would never really realize how nice they are as people. The voice acting community is full of really generous, sweet people. We're all helping each other. It's kind of an idyllic situation.
That's wonderful that you're a part of such a wonderful community. Just us getting to know you, you've been so nice and so helpful with volunteering your time to be part of our event. So thank you so much for
You're
that.
welcome. It's been fun. I'll be back
Yeah,
on the server today after the panel here for signing or talking or ask me anything. You're going to cover almost
excellent.
everything. No one's going to have anything to say to me after we're done.
Who knows? It might be, you might get many more questions based off this panel. So, the next one is I want to move on to like some of your favorite things. So,
Hmm.
do you have any favorite
Raindrops on
memories?
roses and whiskers on kittens. No, I'm just
Yes,
kidding.
exactly.
What were we going to say? Favorite
Oh,
projects I've worked on?
do you have any favorite memories, like when working on Beast Wars, for example, or Transformers Prime?
Well, let's see. Having Steve Bloom right next to me on Transformers Prime was such an amazing performer, but to see him live right next, I mean, I'm sure the fans can only imagine. It's it's a whole different perspective, a whole different feeling, and then to be in actual scenes with him was amazing too, and the whole cast, because we gathered the whole cast there. Sometimes there were 14 people in the room, and that was my favorite experience. I really miss that, having everybody in the room be able to play off them. That's
Mhm.
kind of my main memory. It's a not specific memory, but it's a main memory of just the interaction, and we just have fun. It's you want to foster a feeling of play, Because if we're not having fun, you're not having fun. It is really true. If people are just, as I say, phoning it in from Toledo, no offense to Ohio, if you're not really there in your mind and your heart, you're not going to give a great performance.
It's so true. So the next question is, what was your favorite line as Shockwave, and would you demo that for us?
Let's see. Well, anytime he would say, "You are logical," like I just did. I always have to put my hands up to my ears. Steve Blue and I both do the same thing. I wish I had it in front of me, but there's a really great line in the second season episode, the very first episode that he's in, about the cortical psychic patch. It was basically something like, if she doesn't give me her, her information, I'll just turn it up and kill her, kind of thing. He was very tortury in that one, and it's kind of sadistic, but I'm not this way in person. But when the character gets kind of sadistic, it gets kind of interesting. So, and of course I remember the scene with Starscream where I've almost had it with him and I almost kill him. Yeah, there were some great lines in there too, but yeah, I'd have to have been I should have read that. You sent me notes before. I should have been prepared for that. I didn't write it down. Voice actors don't have to memorize their lines, so if I had it in front of me again, I'd be able to do it.
I know. Well, hey, people can hit you up in the chat afterwards and ask you that
what's
again.
Funny? While we're talking, I promised I wouldn't do this, but since you asked that, I think while we're in this, if somebody actually types a line in there and I remember it, I'll say it.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good.
I'll just look back at that while we're talking. Yeah.
Yeah. If anyone knows that line, please put it in our Discord server in David's channel.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. So.
Okay, great. So, of all the characters you voiced, who's your favorite?
I love all my children equally.
Oh, okay.
No, that's what I say. But the Transformers ones, were three of the best characters that I ever performed. Just a great memory of doing them. And of course, the years of fan interaction afterwards just makes it even sweeter. Other than Transformers, I played Gorilla Grodd on The Flash, and that's been really fun. We've been doing that for 7 years, and every year we slowly progress the character. I have the same creative team working with me every single episode. That's super fun. What was fun? Robocop. I did Robocop in the 90s, and it was a comedic version of Robocop. So we had a good time with that. Robocop was very similar to Shockwave, except he was Shockwave with a little bit of fun. He was like if Shockwave had a sense of humor.
Yeah. Yeah, he seems like that. Do you have a moment that you're the most proud of in your career so far?
Most proud of? Blitzwing is one of the highlights in that category. Yeah, I felt really good about what we did with that. Anytime that I can make people at home respond in a positive way, if they enjoy what I did, then I feel like I did my job. I'm not looking for approval per se, but I definitely look for people to respond to what I do in a way that engages them in the story. And the more people are engaged in the story, they forget that it's me. It's always nice. But I know I always sound, you kind of can tell that it's me in a lot of the shows. So yeah, people are writing stuff down.
Yay.
Let's see. But they're not ones I want to say.
Oh.
I mean, they're cool, but they're not the best lines. Well, if you guys can remember the one from Out of the Past in the second season, Transformers Prime, where he's actually kind of threatening, that would be a good one. Yeah, they're working on it.
Okay, cool. Thank you, fans who are watching. As someone who, yeah, we've got plenty of time. So, Transformers Prime was my favorite Transformers show so far. And I think in part is because of the strong voice acting, including your acting as Shockwave. Like I always loved it when, whenever he would say a line, it was very deliberate. And, it just really came off as a really fabulous performance.
Thank you. Well, I really did dedicate myself to making that one very focused. But there was an energy about that character that just wouldn't have worked otherwise. It had to be intense. Every single line had to be intense.
So we're going to get into some even more Transformers related questions. So some of these are fan submitted ahead of time.
Cool.
So do you think Depth Charge's arrogance and distrust towards the Maximals and Beast Wars was justified, or you think he should have been more cooperative and less tempered?
Well, when you say should have, it means what other people expected of him.
Hmm.
He was an independent agent and he did what he needed to do on his own. The fact that he was helpful at all was probably being generous for him.
Okay.
That's what I think.
All right. So, what were the major differences between working on Beast Wars and Transformers Prime?
Night and day, really, because Transformers Prime was a very theatrical. It was like a feature film, the way that it was produced, and Beast Wars had kind of more of a kid feeling to it, a fun feeling to it. Although it was serious, to me, it felt like sort of like serious, but in a way that was fun. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of the way I perceived the show. It felt like for a slightly younger audience. Do you feel that?
I felt that for sure, because I saw Beast Wars when it first came out, and I was like in middle school, and then I rewatched it again recently as an adult, and it feels more fun than Transformers Prime. Transformers Prime is a very serious show.
Although we were having fun, there was more of a formality about the sessions
Hmm.
in Transformers Prime than there was in Beast Wars. Was just like a party.
Oh.
Yeah, and but a very strange. We both of those shows had way too many people in the room. It was really
Hmm.
squished together. But Beast Wars was like on. We were on top of each other almost, like literally like this close to each other.
Oh wow, there's no 6 feet apart rule there.
Not then, not then.
Not then.
Well,
Do you
well,
think,
even now, you can't have a group in a studio now. Right now, you have to do it at home.
yeah. Do you think that was in part with the major differences? Was it because of the director's involvement or just the whole group energy
Well, you're saying
together?
why it was like that? I think
Yeah.
the the style of the show was
Hmm.
very different. Transformers Prime was really to me almost like a feature film.
Hmm.
It felt that way. And the animation was serious animation too. It was the, the technology had progressed so much. It kind of looked more cartoony in Beast Wars because the technology wasn't that far along. Although
Hmm.
it was kind of ooh and ah back then because you had the show Reboot, and then you had Beast Wars, and there hadn't been a ton of CGI until then. So it was all kind of new and shiny. And it looks kind of
Yeah.
dated now. I mean, it's still fun, but it looks kind of definitely, you can tell you're in the 90s.
Oh yeah, like I remembered when Beast Wars first came out on TV and I was like, "Oh, this is so cool. This is 3D." And then like rewatching it, like I rewatched it like last year and it was just like, yeah, the graphics are really dated, but the story and the voice acting is still spot on.
I found some good quotes here
Yes.
for Death Charge. Do not worry. If the mind does not survive the procedure, you will be next. That's a good one.
Hmm.
That one, that was a lot of pressure. If I don't usually feel it that way, but that episode, his introduction started with a really long monologue explaining his reason for existing. Remember?
Hmm. Yeah.
And I remember the whole room was there. Like they'd never, some of them knew me, but it was my first appearance on the show, and here I am with this Shockwave log that went on and on and on, and of course you don't want to be stumbling over your words in a performance, so it was a lot of concentration,
Hmm.
which I think kind of cemented the character too.
Hmm.
Having to concentrate so hard for that monologue. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, it's fine. I was gonna say, how many takes did you have to do to nail that? Do you
I probably meant,
remember?
and I sometimes I'll say Shockwave when I mean Depth Charge, so
Mhm.
forgive me. No, I actually got that in maybe one or two takes. I got that really fast. That
Nice.
particular one. I got to stop looking. I'm looking at the chat. I'm
Oh,
going to turn it off now. I did. You got my quote, so I'm going to. Guys, keep typing, but I'll see it later.
yeah. Yeah, keep sending your questions for David. He will get to them eventually. So, the next question I'm going to ask you is, would you like to voice Shockwave again in a future Transformers show or
Oh,
movie?
absolutely. I'd love it. I would love it. I'd like to voice all of them. I can't really do Depth Charge anymore, exactly the same as I did, because he really was a more youthful voice. That was another time, and it was before I did 90 video games of screaming. So the
Yeah.
voice is a lot deeper than it used to be. But the other
Mhm.
two characters I could still do.
Okay. So if you could voice any other Transformers character in Transformers Prime, who would have been and why?
Um, I think I've had moments when I had possible opportunities to play Megatron in other spin-off things, and you always get, as is our custom, if somebody asked me to play Megatron, I would get in touch with Frank and get his blessing. I wouldn't want to do that behind his back. But there was a time when they were toying with having me do that in a video game, but it didn't end up happening. But yes, I can't say someday. Hopefully it's not going to ever happen. But that would be a great role.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not coveting his job or anything. He's got the
Yeah.
job. Sometimes he's just busy, or he's got other things that are happening, and there might be an opportunity. You never know. But I'm not sitting here waiting for it. Like I
No.
say, like I want to do Batman too, but that that job's taken too.
Yeah. Are there any other characters in Transformers or just in general that you would like to voice someday?
Just that Batman, as I
Hmm.
mentioned, Batman and Megatron, but mostly Batman.
Okay. You would make a good Batman and also a good Megatron.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, what would you like to do for the future of your career?
Well, I've written a pilot, and I'm hoping that that goes. I can't talk much about it, but we're just finishing up the part where you go and try to sell it to television networks and to streaming platforms. So we have an animatic. It probably won't be released to the public, but I want to start working on that. More directing. I've been directing some film and enjoying that. Short films, and I hope to do a feature at some point. And so there'll be a little directing in my future, a little producing in my future, and still more voice. And what else? It's a hobby, but I was talking to the server how I went into a chess tournament this morning, and that's
Hmm.
just a hobby, but that's been fun. So I'm going to keep
Yeah.
pursuing that. Maybe I'll even get to the point where I go to tournaments when they exist again in
Mhm.
person.
I have to ask, what got you into playing chess?
I've been playing for years because I had a couple of friends that played, tried to get me into it. I kind of plateaued
Mhm.
at a very low level. Then I
Mhm.
hired a teacher, and I got a lot better, so that helped. I'm still learning, kind of at like a lower end intermediate.
Mhm. Yeah. Well,
It's
that's
been
really
fun.
exciting, and I'm glad you got to play in that tournament today.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
We all need something that's fun during COVID, aside from our careers, whatever our careers are. Just you got to have a distraction. You got to have something and also keeps your mind going too.
Mhm.
I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and that's one of the other reasons why a group of us decided to put on this event. So it's been a lot of fun, and you're right, you have to have things to keep you busy besides work. Um, so are there any other projects you can work on or that you're working on that you would like to share or announce, if you can share that information?
That's the thing when we do these things. Almost all of them that you're currently working on, they never let you talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
They have you sign non-disclosure agreements, and some of them are really, really strict. Some of them will actually give you a money figure that they're going to try to get from you if you release it to the public.
Mm-hmm.
I had a video game once that actually stipulated a $3 million penalty if I
Ooh.
tweeted about it.
Ooh.
Yeah, they're serious. They're not fooling around. Well, when I worked for Marvel, one of our producers, he said to me, Marvel is in the excitement business,
Mm-hmm.
and they know how to market to get people interested, and they don't want you messing with that. So your job is to go in and do the voice and wait for them to give you permission to say
Mm-hmm.
anything to the public. If you're a young voice actor, do not publicize your auditions. Do not publicize anything unless you have permission. Um, Actually, preferably written permission, because it can end careers. Like they'll just like sometimes agents will drop people if they do that because it just makes it really difficult for their relationship with the producer. So yeah, we got to be so quiet. I wish I could talk about. There's some stuff
Oh.
coming up, but I can't talk about it.
Yeah, well, we totally get it with those NDAs are super strict, and I know you got to follow it. So, thank you for following it, of course. So
Oh
we
sure.
can't, yeah, we can't wait to hear though what you're going to be part of next. I'm very excited.
Um, spoilers. Spoilers are a big thing with me too. It's like just don't. It's not
Hmm.
fun. It's fun for you at the time because maybe it's like, look at, no, I know the spoiler. I know something secret, but just make it. It's way more fun for other people if you don't do that. At the end of
Hmm.
the day, it's like a moment of fun, and then not as many people will watch the show, or when they watch it, they won't enjoy it as much. So yeah, stay away from spoilers, guys.
Hmm. Um, are there any special announcements you would like to share before we move on into more fan questions?
No announcements per se, except if you would like to pursue voice acting, I do train people privately and in classes, so please see my website for that. Also have, I'm going to go back to the server, the Discord server for signing. I have a portal set up at sobolov.com/shop. And there you'll see all the pictures I have from all the different shows, including Transformers, and I can sign them and then show you a picture of the signing live on the Discord server when we're done.
Yeah, that's been very exciting. So thank you for that announcement for your autographs. And I can't wait to get mine in the mail from you.
It will arrive. Some have already arrived, I heard.
Yeah, I'll have to go check my mailbox today at some point. Yeah. So at this time, we are going to take now fan questions from Twitch. We'll also check the Discord too. So if you have any questions, please submit those. Suna, if you'd mind helping us read those questions, very much appreciated.
If I see one on the Discord that I think would be interesting, I'll jump in as well.
Okay.
Oh, there's a good line. This is a Shockwave line from that fight with Starscream.
Mm-hmm.
I am tempted to force you to share my perception of things. You know, he got really angry on that one.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Oh, I got applause. I got 3 applause.
Yay.
You know when they, the little icon. Oh, I got 4 applause.
Yay.
So the first question I found on Twitch, I'll scroll up in a little bit, but do you like other board games like backgammon or Chinese checkers, or is chess the most comfortable?
Chess is it for me right now. And I'm not really into that many board games. It's just chess right now. And I used to be into board games when I was a little kid more. I think if I had time, I would play, what is it called? Risk, that worldwide conquest game?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
From years ago, yeah. It was kind of interesting for me. But
Mm-hmm.
just chess.
Next one on here is, outside of acting, what is the best thing about having such a cool, deep voice?
Oh, it is kind of funny. Sometimes inexplicably, I'm not trying to be conceited, but there's a certain age group that for some reason really responds to it. And I'm talking about 65 and older women. Sometimes I'll be in a theater or somewhere and they'll ask me, they'll make a nice comment about my voice from 3 rows away or something. That's kind of sweet. Or if I used to do this years ago, it was really kind of a little bit mean, but many, many years ago when I lived in New York City, a lot of the buildings were being fixed because all the decorative gargoyles and stuff from 1910 and stuff were falling on people. So there was tons of scaffolding everywhere and it was very echoey. And if it was late at night, I might just go, "Hey," like really loud, and somebody had to jump, but they never looked back. Like it definitely evoked a reaction. So that's kind of mean, but that's what I used to do sometimes. Or if you're in a really echoey place like an underground parking garage that has really cacophonous sound. There was an old commercial for Drano, and he would just said it really loudly, so it would go like Drano, and it would reverberate back at me. So I play with the voice sometimes.
Next one that I saw, just because I think it's a really fun question. Who would win in a fight, Shockwave, Depth Charge, or Blitzwing, and why?
Well, obviously Blitzwing is not very good at strategizing because he got killed. He's powerful, but not very. Well, he's probably smart, but he's probably more of a military guy, too much into just following whatever he was ordered to do or whatever he was compelled to do. But he wasn't. It's like chess. I equate so many things to chess now. You got to look around the board, and he wasn't watching what was happening, and he was done. Who would win? I think Shockwave. Something about him just seems impenetrable. What do you think?
I'm not the right person to answer this question. I'm extremely biased.
Yeah.
Well, then tell me. Would somebody else win? Not those 3? Who would win?
Well, I'm not biased, but Shockwave would probably win, as much as I love Blitzwing too. Especially from the Bumblebee movie, I do think Shockwave, because he's so logical and he doesn't let emotions get to him, that he would just, defeat them easily.
Well, Wasabi on Discord asks, which of your Transformers characters do you think would be the best chess player? And I think also Shockwave. Because there's no when you bring emotion to something, that causes like mistakes in logic. And he doesn't have much emotion except with Starscream.
That's definitely true. Did you ever compare, this is just one I've thought of, like Shockwave to like Spock at all from Star Trek?
No, because I never saw Spock as unkind. I saw Spock as logical but compassionate. And there ain't no compassion in Shockwave.
Like, so he's like the opposite in regards to being completely logical.
But even if you're full Vulcan, you're still not a bad person. You still have morals. So it's quite different.
Another question that you got, are there any memorable moments you had when working with other actors on Transformers Prime?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of something specific. It was almost every single episode there was something magic that happened because you're hearing those amazing performances. I just keep going back to Steve Bloom because he was right beside me. But Frank and Peter. One day Frank and Peter started going at it just for fun. Not angry with each other, but they're from a really old school, before my generation. And they just start riffing and start doing wacky voices, especially when we're waiting for editing or something. And it's like a master performance that you would never get anywhere that, we're getting right there. You probably pay $1,000 a ticket for it. So that was really special. And the fact also that they were so nice. I mean, they were so like top of the business. I suppose if they weren't nice, they would still be fine. But I almost think that sustains you. If you're a decent person, it keeps people wanting to work with you. But yeah, I always want to work with them. Theater Josh asks, do you sing? You sound like you'd be amazing bass. Thank you. Yeah, I used to make my living singing. I used to tour with an acapella group, singing bass, years ago.
Nice.
Somebody on Twitch asked, I know Steve Blum has ordered at fast food restaurants in his voice. Have you ever done that?
No, I tend to be a little conservative about that. I keep the voices, unless we're doing a panel, I keep the voices to the studio for the most part. Although I almost did that. I was doing a movie called Sparks, and I was on camera, and I was in this huge prosthetic makeup playing the creature, and we pulled in because it was a busy day. It was a long day. I was going back to get a makeup touch up at somebody's house, actually, away from set. And we stopped for fast food, and I was going to go in as the character, but I decided not to. I should have. That would have been a great video.
A couple people have asked, some people have answered, but to get your take on it, why do you put your hands up near your ears when you're doing your voice acting?
It's partly habit, but it's also that you can hear, when you do that, everybody at home, if you do that, it's kind of like you cup your hand, go like this, you hear all the nuances of your voice. Now you can get that with a headphone, but not as much as you get like that. It's almost like putting up a shell to your ear, and hearing the sea. You can hear every little thing. So especially if you're playing a very quiet character, it helps you craft it. But that's just me. Some engineers hate it because for some people to balance the mics out, it messes things up. But mostly we're fine, technically, and just something I do if there's a lot of subtlety.
Another person asked, how do you think Shockwave would feel if he was on the Great British Baking Show?
I think he's too physically. It would be very difficult for him to do it. I think he'd be breaking a lot of bowls. And he has no taste. He doesn't eat. So how's he going to know how to make something taste good? He wouldn't be good at it at all. He'd be horrible.
I saw it a little bit ago. I'm not sure where. Oh, there it is. Somebody says, "Hey, David, were you shy when you were younger?"
Never really shy. Maybe. I don't know. How do you describe me when I was younger? Nah, I wasn't shy. I'm not really in your face, but not shy. I had a weird childhood because I skipped a grade and I started a year early. So as of grade 3, I was 2 years younger than everybody else, which made it really weird socially. So things got a lot better in high school. I had a lot more fun in high school than I had in grade school.
Mm-hmm.
Another person asked, this was from Twitch, but it got buried. I don't remember if you answered this or not. You mentioned that you had a headcanon backstory for Blitzwing. Did you have anything like that for Depth Charge?
No, I stuck with the script.
Oh.
Although emotionally I did, in a way, not in words, but there was an attitude and a feeling that was there that we developed in the audition. That was definitely never necessarily in the show, but it worked well for the show.
What else have we got? Have you ever met any of your dubs in other languages?
Haven't, and I haven't even heard many of them. I would love to go check that out. You can probably find all that stuff on YouTube, right?
Probably,
Yeah.
Yeah, I should go check that out. That's inspiring. I need to do that.
Another person asks, where can we find your acapella band? Could we listen to you sing?
I don't think you'll ever hear that because that was 1995 and before. I don't think it exists. I'll post it. If I ever find a recording of it, I'll post it.
Sounds good to us. Let's see, we're going to check for more questions.
Cavefish says hi from Winnipeg. Hi, Cavefish. There's another line here. I can do. Somebody... Do not think for one moment, Starscream, that it has gone unnoticed that you left me at the mercy of the Autobots. Little fast, but pretty similar.
Nice.
That should have been slower. He was slower and more determined.
Mm-hmm. He's in a rush when he was saying it that time.
Yeah. I'm a little rusty. It's been a few years.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite episode from Transformers Prime?
Well, the 2 episodes, the one in season 2 out of the past, and then the one with Starscream. I really thought we would have a little spin-off show. We'd be great as a comedy duo.
Mm-hmm. That would have been fun.
We never did. That would have been fun.
Mm-hmm. Another one I found, how much more difficult is it to record for your work while you're working from home, like noise from the household, neighbors, etc.?
I am very lucky. I have an apartment with a booth. The booth is an old closet, and it's completely converted. There's foam in there. If I have to, I can close the door, which is really hot. There's no ventilation in there, but I don't have to. There's something about that particular closet. It's very tall. And acoustically, it sounds like I'm at Warner Brothers. I don't know how. I'm just lucky. There is occasional noise. Like you might have to hold for a plane or hold for a helicopter. There is one pipe in the wall where somebody flushes the toilet downstairs, and I have to hold for that too. Other than that, it's pretty good.
The perils of working from home, right?
Yeah, they're fine with it. It's only if it was constant noise. I am really lucky. They're building a building down the street, and it's just far enough away that I can't hear it.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
If it was one apartment closer, I'd be in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you a story that probably very few people know. The studio that I worked in to do Beast Wars had to shut down because they were building an apartment building next door. And it was incessant. There's no amount of baffling that they could put into to filter the sound out, and it put them out of business.
Wow.
Very sad. They had been there for decades. That was a long time ago.
Sad.
I mean, it happened in the late 90s. It happened like 2002 or something, but it is sad. But noise is everything. If you got noise, you can't record.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's very important with doing voice work because you're... So let's check for some more questions.
I found one. I think it's probably the only one we have time for. Have you read the IDW comics? If so, what's your opinion on IDW Shockwave's backstory?
I have not read them. Sorry.
We'll go to a different question then. I just had it. 1 second. When you were doing Blitzwing in the Bumblebee movie, did you do any research on his character, like watching G1 or animated, or was it all from all from you?
I almost always don't go back. If I'm playing a character that existed before, it's that producer's take on it. And quite often there's a different canon. Like for Gorilla Grodd in The Flash, his backstory does not follow the backstory of the comics completely. So I got to pay attention to what's in front of me and the style that they want. So I purposely don't go back. If I'm not familiar with it, I don't go back until much later, just out of curiosity.
Mhm.
Because if you
Wow.
think about it, I know you got to go soon, but Shockwave, to you, he's a character in the Transformers universe. He doesn't know he's a character in the Transformers universe. He's just existing in his moment, right? And the same as Gorilla Grodd, he doesn't really even know he's a gorilla at first. So he's in the moment, and that helps me stay in the moment. Just me. Some people will want to study what came before, but especially if it's very different, you don't want to end up trying to do a copy. It's a new thing.
Mhm.
And we're not better or worse, guys. If somebody comes to me and goes, "Yeah, we're the best," well, I appreciate it, but everybody that came before me is just as valid. It's just a different performance. That's all. Or after me.
Yeah. Well, David, it's been a pleasure getting to know you and interview you today. You can
It's been
find Dave.
great. Thank you.
Well, yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for being a part of our event. We're so happy to have you at IACON Online.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so just as a reminder for folks watching from home, you can find David Sobolov on social media at Vilobos on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. His
That's my
website,
last name backwards.
yep,
Volobos. Last name backwards.
yep. And then his website is sobolov.com. He is offering special Iacon online special for autographs. So please say hi to him on the Discord chat in his channel, and you'll get autographs signed from him live. Thank you so
All
much
right.
for being here today, and we'll see you on the Discord.
See you there. Have fun, everybody.